Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Colonel Mark Gelhardt. I'm going to talk about how to manage your own destiny, your own career, your own life. And I'm going to give you some pointers and skill sets of how to do that. I'm going to use some stories from my past. Specifically, the number one story I get asked all the time is, how did you get to the White House? How did you become the CIO at the White House? And I'm going to tell you how I did that. And I'm going to tell you that you can do the same thing in your own career and your own destiny using these same tricks. So these are the things I'm going to talk about today. In the military, we always have to tell you what we're going to tell you, and then we tell you, and then we wrap it up with a summary and tell you what we told you. So here, this is what we're going to talk about. Why listen to me? Then I'm going to talk about how I got to the White House, and I'm going to give you some steps to follow in your own life. So why listen to me? Who am I? I had a very atypical military career. I retired as a colonel in the U.S. Army. I spent more than 22 years in uniformed service to your country. And in doing that, I had some very unique opportunities. Opportunities I was not aware of even existed before I joined the service. I went to winter warfare school. There's a picture of me up there getting all frozen. I went to jungle expert school in Panama. I jumped out of airplanes in the 82nd Airborne Division. I helped do a lot of black ops and special forces type items. So I had a very unique career. I would tell you that I started in the military as an HR individual, because I wanted to be a computer geek, and there was only 3 places that had computers: HR, finance, and quartermaster. And I didn't want to move stuff like a UPS guy. I didn't want to deal with finance like a banker guy. So I went to HR. The problem is I didn't stay in HR. I ended up doing very unique things across my career. And I added those things into my kit bag, my suitcase of knowledge. And that's how I got to the White House. And we're going to talk about some of those steps. I got to the White House in 1995. I was there for almost 5 years, got them ready for Y2K. I was the CIO, and at the time the CISO. They didn't really have those titles in 95. What I really was the commander of the Data Systems Unit for the White House Communications Agency, for the White House Military Office, supporting the Department of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief. And you ask me, well, why is the military at the White House doing IT geeky stuff? In World War II, the president at the time wanted information from the front line quicker and faster than he was receiving it. So he brought the Army Signal Corps onto the south lawn of the White House. They set up big HF antennas, they received information from the front lines, and it would go right into the president. Also at the time, the War Office was in the old Executive Office building, which is the building right next to the White House. That's where the Army was and the Navy was. And they built the Pentagon during World War II. But the president brought the Army Signal Corps onto the grounds of the White House and said, I want information. Ever since then, the Army Signal Corps has morphed into the White House Communications Agency, which is an agency that provides IT, communications, audiovisual to the Commander-in-Chief. Because the president that we know today has 3 different hats that he wears. In the United States, the president is the chief executive of the United States. That's the president. He's also the head of state. That's why the State Department works for him. Think of him as a king. That's the head of state. And he's also the commander-in-chief, or the senior military officer in charge of the military. So he wears 3 hats. It doesn't make sense to have 3 phones on his desk, one for each one of those hats. So the military has the most important and quickest need to communicate with the president. Think of nuclear missiles inbound. Gets the job of providing support to the president. That was the job that I had. I was in charge of several hundred or several thousand individuals providing IT, communications, and audiovisual to the President of the United States. These are the 10 steps that I used to get there. You'll see these 10 steps again. No need to write them down right now. You'll see them at the end. We're going to go through each one of these 10 steps, and I'm going to show you and give you items of stories to support these 10 steps. So There's me with President Clinton. If you notice over my left-hand shoulder, there's a phone on the desk. You only see a little portion of the phone, therefore the photo, you can see the photo. That's actually a classified stew phone in a tent in the middle of a parking lot. So no matter where the president went, we had to provide him instantaneous communications anywhere in the world, no matter where he was. Golf cart, on the golf course, I was in the golf cart behind him with my phone stuff. Horseback riding, I was on a horse right behind him with a donkey with my comm stuff. On a boat, I was down in the belly of the boat while he was up top with the King and Queen of Spain drinking, but I was there with my comm stuff. So we're going to go through these 10 steps, and we're going to start with the very first step, being positive in your outlook on life. Who wants to go to work for someone that says, oh man, we got another bad day, we got to get all this stuff out, I don't know how we're going to do it. Do you want to go work for that guy or gal? No, you want to work for someone that says, hey, it's Wednesday, let's kick butt, let's get things done today, we'll do the best we can. You want to work for that guy. A positive outlook on life will help you and the people that work with, for, and beside you. Positive outlook on life. Think about that. Today is the last time you're going to have today. This day will never come again. You've used it, you've left it behind. So what are you going to do today to make tomorrow better? Having a positive outlook in life and having a plan to get you there will help you in moving forward in where you want to go in your career. No one goes to an interview and says, I hope you think my resume is good enough. I'd like you to hire me. No, I want your job. You go in, I want your job. You want to be positive about it. So be positive about your life and where you are. And if you cannot be positive about where you are in your life and where you are going in your life, change it. No one can change your attitude other than you. You are the only one in charge of your attitude. Your boss can't affect your attitude. I guess if they yell at you and fire you. But if they fire you, all they did was close one door and you have 100 doors open to you. So you decide how you take things. You know, I left my laptop on the plane when I travel somewhere, and I'm going, oh man, everything's on my laptop. I can't, you know. But another way of looking at it is I learned how the airplane systems work. I learned who to talk to. We went back to the airport in 2 or 3 hours. We learned how to get back to the gate. They had my laptop there. And I was very thankful at the end of the day, and I learned from that lesson not to leave my laptop on the plane again. But it was a lesson, and I learned from that lesson, and if I had a negative output, oh man, I lost my laptop, I'm never going to get it back, and I didn't do anything, it would have had a worse outcome. But I had a positive attitude. We're going to go get it. We're going to find it. We're going to go do stuff. So have a positive outlook on life. The second thing is you have to empower yourself to be okay with doing things. You have to empower yourself to say, yes, I can. You know, anybody can run a marathon. I've done over 100 of them. It's 26.2 miles, and you may sit there and say, well, you know, I can't do that. I guarantee you in a year you have walked 26.2 miles. Maybe a mile a day for a month. You know, you walk to your car, you walk to the park. You have already done a marathon. You just don't realize it, and you haven't done it in a shorter period of time. I would tell you, one of the things I learned in the military, going to some of these special schools where they're yelling at you all the time and making you do stuff all the time, I learned that you could really do anything that you set your mind to it. And there's some physical limitations. I mean, you may never run a marathon in 2 hours. But anybody can do a marathon. Anybody can do anything with a positive outlook, and you set your mind to it. So inventory who you are. Inventory what you're good at. I am not good at remembering names. However, JD has a name tag on, and Chris has a name tag on. Because they wear a name tag, I can remember names. In the military, we used to have our names on our uniform. So I didn't have to learn to remember names. I looked at the Sergeant so-and-so and Captain so-and-so. I didn't have to remember. I lost that skill. I am not good at remembering names. So I know that. I've taken that inventory of myself. I know what I'm good at. You want someone that's organized, gung-ho, positive attitude, that's me. And I know that's what I'm good at. So find a job that uses your positive attitude and your ability to get things done. Then you have to develop a plan of where you're going. If you go to college, how long does it take to get a degree? About 4 years. Master's degree maybe in 2 years. An associate degree in 2 years. You can't say, I'm going to go to college next week and I'm going to be finished in a week and have a degree. You can't do that. You got to have a plan. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to find the time to go? How are you going to get your spouse, your wife, and kids to allow you to study? What's your plan? You want to be a CIO or CEO of a company? What's your plan on getting there? Because you can't just apply for the job and expect to get picked up and have that job tomorrow. You got to have a plan to go through things. You have to set goals for yourself. Today, my goal was to get here at the conference ahead of time, set up ahead of time, and be ready for the audience 15 minutes before the audience walked in the door. That was my goal. I had a goal. I accomplished that goal. Y'all are sitting in the audience. My audio-visual worked. Guess what? When I walked into this room, the audio-visual didn't work. Because I was here early, got that fixed. I put signs up on the door. Y'all read the signs. You came in the right door. I did that ahead of time, thinking about the different steps needed to make this happen. I had a plan, and I executed on that plan. You've got to be ready when things don't go your way. Everybody makes mistakes. I have made 1 or 2 mistakes that my wife has pointed out. Yes, I make a mistake every now and then. You will make a mistake. The people that work for you will make a mistake. President Nixon made a mistake. It was not the Watergate scandal or the Watergate break-in that got President Nixon indicted. It was the cover-up after the mistake. President Clinton got indicted. It wasn't the actual event around Monica Lewinsky. It was what they did after the mistake. You know, we can learn from our leaders. We got current news media about our current president. It's what you do after the event that gets you in more trouble than the event itself. So I tell everybody that works for me, you will make a mistake. I'm going to make a mistake while I'm here. It's not the mistake that we get an issue with. It's learning from the mistake and not doing that mistake over again. So that will help you to be ready. You will learn things. Get certificates, get degrees, learn things. You can learn an awful lot from your buddy. You're here at this conference today, and I would challenge you, have you shared your card with someone else? And if you haven't, then I'm telling you, you're not taking care of yourself and not doing the right thing by coming to a conference. Yes, you'll come to a conference and hear people up on the platform impart knowledge to you, but that's not what networking is all about. Networking is to get peers or other individuals, maybe higher or lower, change ideas, change contacts, get to know other individuals. You can make it to the top of the heap all by yourself. But why? Why do that when there are people that help you? Brent in the audience here has helped me a couple of times. Gave me a hey, there's a job opening, you want to go look at this. Didn't work out, but that's how you get around in today's world. More people find jobs through networking than you do by applying for jobs online. So, do you think I applied for the White House job online? No, that's not how it worked. Yeah. That wasn't how it worked at all. So we're going to take all these different steps, and I'm going to roll them into how I got to the White House. But we're going to go through a few more slides first. Leadership. One of the things I found out when I got out of the service, there was a lot of leaders in the service. Yes, there was a few bad apples, the people that weren't quite the right types of leaders. I worked for some of those. I learned a lot from some of those leaders, how not to be a good leader. Then I come out here to the civilian sector, and you know there is a tremendous amount of managers out in the civilian sector. There's a tremendous amount of people that are technical experts, and because they're so good as technical experts, they get raised up to the rank and they become a manager and a director and maybe even a VP because they're a technical expert. But they don't know crap about being a leader, about taking care of people. I'm very disingenuated by the civilian sector. They don't grow leaders. The military grows leaders. A leader is in the front saying, follow me. Let's go get that machine gun nest. We got this project to do. I'm going to be here while you're here. If you're here working on that project, I'm in my office. I may not be working on the project, but I'm going to be here the same amount of hours you are because I know it's important. You can see me. You can come ask me questions. You can get support from me because I'm going to stay here. We got an issue or an incident, I'll be on the bridge. I'm not going to run that bridge. That's not my job. But I'll be on the bridge. And you need someone to make a decision and to get in trouble, hey, that's me. I'll make the decision. I'll take the heat. That's a leader. I take my folks out for lunch about once a month, and I pay for it out of my own pocket. I do not use the corporate card saying, oh, this is a corporate event. No, I want to thank you for working for me. You know, you can't be a leader if no one follows. No, you can't be a leader. And if your folks aren't following you, there's some reasons for that. All right, enough of that. When someone offers you an opportunity that's outside of your box, don't say no, say yes, even if you don't think you can do it. Because one of the previous slides is you could do anything you set your mind to. Now, you might be doing it at A level, or you might do it at C level. But maybe C level is all they need. Never say no. I've had some really weird jobs in the military because I didn't say no. So I was in the 82nd Airborne, jumping out of airplanes, young kid, had all my muscles. I could go down and do 100 push-ups. It was nothing. One of the guys said, hey, we got an opening for a winter warfare school. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll go to school. If I go to school, I don't have to do all this day-to-day stuff. So yeah, I'll go to winter warfare school. I didn't realize winter warfare school was in Alaska in the middle of the winter, and it was like minus 40 degrees. Do you know if you don't learn how to go to the bathroom correctly in minus 40 degrees, you will die? I didn't know that. I learned that skill, and I'm going, I never want to use that skill again. But yeah, I learned that skill. So I went to Alaska. I came back. I was back in the 82nd Airborne, jumping out of airplanes. I said, hey, life is good. Learn something new. I got a call from an Army detailer saying, I see you have this skill identifier of winter warfare. We want to send you up to the Dewey line up in Canada and work up there. I go, what? You want to send me where? Yeah, don't worry, it's only like minus 30 or 20. I mean, you'll enjoy the job. I said, is there any skill identifier that you have that you need more of that's more important in going winter warfare? And he goes, well, yeah, we need jungle experts more than we need winter warfare folks. I said, sign me up. Can I go to the next school? So I went to the next school to become a jungle expert, jumped into Panama, ate snakes and lizards and stuff as I'm hiking through the woods in Panama, and I got a different skill identifier. So I kept adding to my kit. I added to my knowledge. I never said no. I said, yeah, I'll go do that. So talking about never say no, I'm going to use some of the ones we've already gone through, and I'm going to tell you how I got to the White House. And these are the same things you can do in your career to get to where you want to go. I had more than 15 years in service. This was right after Desert Shield, Desert Storm, which was in 1991. The military was doing a pare down. They were shrinking. They were taking the peace dividend. The Berlin Wall had gone down. The communists were no longer a threat. We had won Desert Shield, Desert Storm, hands down. 100 hours, we win a global conflict. And the Congress said, let's make the military smaller. And I was right in this window where I could get out of the service and get a retirement paycheck for the rest of my life. And I wouldn't have to deploy anymore to, cold places or jungly places. I said, yeah, it's not a bad deal. Maybe I'll go do that. So I turned to my wife and I said, I know I just got promoted to lieutenant colonel and we got a good career going. Do you want to get out? By the way, I was living here in Atlanta. I said, do you want to get out and stay in Atlanta? She goes, yeah, I kind of like that. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If I can't find a job that I love and that I can't turn down, I'll get out and we'll retire. So didn't I tell you I started in military service as an HR person and a computer person? So what did I do? I got on the HR computers and went, what jobs are out there? Where do I want to go? How can I go find what I want to do? And I looked through the whole inventory in the United States Army and could not find a job that I couldn't turn down. So I started looking at the civilian sector and looking for a job and saying, what jobs are out there that I want to go get? And my network, did I talk about a network? My network of people found out that I was thinking about getting out of the service and retiring. And I got a phone call from this guy that used to work for me. I was his leader. I was his squad leader or platoon leader when he was an E1, E2, private. He came into service, very smart individual, had no education, hadn't even finished high school. But this was the smartest individual I had ever met in my life. Think of Albert Einstein. This guy was smart. Now, he was from the backwoods of Kentucky. And he didn't know how to talk so good. And he didn't have an education. But I told him that he could do better than what he was doing. And I forced him to put in a warrant officer packet. He couldn't become an officer because he didn't have the education to become an officer. But I forced him to put a warrant officer packet in. That's a technical expert in the Army. So he put in his packet, and he got picked up as warrant officer. He left my unit, my command, I never saw him again. Until the day he called me. This was several years later. He goes, sir, I heard you were getting out of the service. I go, yes, I am. And we talked back and forth. He goes, you were the best leader I ever had. No pat on my back. That's just the way it was. And I don't want you to get out. That would be terrible for the Army. I said, well, unless I find a job I can't refuse, I'm going to get out. He goes, I got the job for you. Guess where that warrant officer was working? That warrant officer was the fastest growing promoted warrant officer in the U.S. Army. He had become a CW4 because he was so good. That's the highest rank you can get as a warrant officer. Chief Warrant Officer 4. And he got selected for some outstanding positions. And guess where he was working? Anybody can guess? He was working at the White House. He was working at the White House, and he said, sir, my boss is about ready to leave. I want you to be my new boss here at the White House. I said, there's jobs at the White House. There's military jobs at the White House. That might be interesting. So I did a little bit more research, found out that they were not in the HR system. They were nominated, selected positions that were hidden from anybody. And it was like, who did you know? General this, general that, I want my son to go to this job or whatever. And you had to be a water walker. You had to be a top half percenter. I looked at my records, did my inventory of who I was, and I had just gotten promoted to lieutenant colonel. I had a pretty good record. I think I would have gotten promoted to colonel. So I called the Department of the Army. I said, hey, I heard there was a job at the White House. I'd like you to nominate me for that job. They looked at my records and they go, you kind of are a water walker. You're pretty good. You're a top 5%er, but you're not a top half percenter. And they said, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to go to the White House. We're not going to nominate you. What are one of the slides I had up there? Never say no. Well, someone was telling me no, and that doesn't work real well for me. So that's just not how I'm built. So I said, I wonder how I can do this. So I went through my network, talked back to the warrant officer that was there at the White House. I said, who is the real decision maker? Who is the person that can actually say yes and no? Well, the Honorable Jake Simmons at the White House was the person that really had the yes-no power and authority. So I developed a plan to execute to see if I could get to the White House. And I conspired with my network of friends to get information necessary to make this plan happen. And I found out what the personal phone number for Colonel Jake Simmons was. Not only that, I had someone tell me when his secretary left the front office desk, because she answered all the phones, and went to the bathroom. And I got a phone call. Call him right now. Call him on his personal line. So I called the Honorable Jake Simmons, and I said, "Sir, you don't know me. My name's Lieutenant Colonel Gil Hart. I want to come work for you at the White House. Please give me 5 minutes to explain what this phone call is about." I took a chance, had my plan, executed my plan. He said, "You have 2 minutes, Colonel. Can you sell yourself in 2 minutes? Have you developed your elevator speech? Do you know what your real strong points are? Not the BS stuff in a resume, but who you are. Can you sell yourself in 2 minutes?" Well, that was my challenge. Sell myself in 2 minutes. So I did pretty good the first 2 minutes, and 2 minutes turned to 4 minutes. In the end of 4 minutes, Colonel Simmons says, "Well, this is not the way it's done, Colonel. Thank you very much for the call." I said, "Hold on 1 second, one more thing. Look behind you over your right shoulder at the half-filled red coffee cup on your fax machine, and you'll see my full packet in your fax machine. I've been faxing it to you while we've been talking." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, look over your right shoulder to your red coffee cup that's half filled in the fax machine right next to it, and you'll find my packet." And he goes, "How do you know my coffee cup's behind me? How do you know my fax number? How did you know my private line?" He picks up the packet and looks at you. "How do you know what you're supposed to put in the packet?" It was a classified packet, had all sorts of stuff in it. "How do you know what to put in?" I said, "I'm not getting anybody in trouble, sir, but this is the type of officer you're going to get if you hire me." I said, "Thank you very much for your time, Colonel. I appreciate it. This is not how it's done." Click. I had a plan. I executed on my plan. I knew my strong points. I was able to sell myself. I didn't say no when they said no. I executed on everything I could do within my power to get that job. Well, y'all kind of know how the story ends up. A couple of days later, I worked for a 3-star general here in Atlanta. The military aide, or his secretary, his assistant, comes running down the hallway and said, Colonel Gelhardt, General wants to see you right now." I said, "What's going on?" "I don't know, but somebody's yelling at him." Well, 3-star generals don't get yelled at a lot. That's just not the way the military works. So I come in, knock on his door, and I get waved in, and I stand at attention because that's just the way it works. And he puts his phone on speaker, and he is getting reamed. I mean, he is getting reamed up one side and down the other. And I hear, "Blah, blah, 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 Gelhardt, blah, 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 Gelhardt, blah, 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 Gelhardt." And when the guy stopped talking, my general, Lieutenant General Yosak, turned and said, "General so-and-so, I have Colonel Gelhardt in my office right now, and you're on speakerphone." And Gelhardt, and so the next time there was a breath, I said, "Sir, could you tell me why I'm getting yelled at?" He goes, "We got a by-name request from the White House for you to interview for the job." "You did? How'd that happen?" So I didn't know anything about that. Wow, that's wonderful. So I had a plan. I executed it. Now, I got to admit, I had a teeny tiny bit of luck. The right person in my network found out that I was leaving. I had helped the right person many years earlier. I can give you many more examples of this same concept. Fate, luck, you call it whatever you want. But when that thing, whatever you call it, comes in front of you, you have to be ready. Are you ready with your 2-minute elevator speech when you meet someone at a conference? and they're looking for a new X, Y, and Z, and you just happen to be that person. The job I have today is because I went out to coffee with someone, and I was ready. The job at the White House is because someone in my network found out I was leaving, and I was ready. Are you ready? Are you ready for those next challenges? Have you set yourself up with a plan? So I went for the interview. So I got lucky enough to get interviewed. When I arrived for the interview to work at the White House, there was 100 people vying for one job. And these 100 people were all the top half percenters. And I'm a top, 5%er. And I'm looking around and I'm looking at poster boys and girls of the Army and the Air Force and the Coast Guard and the Marine guy. Oh my God. Holy cow. And the Marine gal standing next to him. Holy cow for her too. I'm looking at these people and I look at myself and I go, no wonder they didn't want to nominate me. But after the first day of interviewing, the next day, there was only about 60 folks there. I was still in the mix. Third day, there was 20 folks left. Fourth day, there was 10 folks left. By lunch of Friday, I looked around and there was me and one other guy. There was two of us. Remember, never say no. Do your best. Execute the best. Know your inventory of who you are. So I went in, the other guy got invited in to report to the board before me. He went in, reported to the board. He got the job. I didn't get it. I tried my best. I went in, I reported, I said, sir, I'm here. And the general that was running the board looked at me and says, Colonel, just want to let you know we offered the job to the other guy. And I stood up, saluted, said, thank you very much, got ready to leave. He goes, not so fast, sit back down. I go, okay. Well, we have a second job at the White House. You interviewed for the job to be in charge of IT. We have a head of HR job here at the White House. We want you to take that. I said, thought about it for a second or two and said, no, I don't want that job. Thank you very much. I stood up, got ready to salute, and got ready to leave. And he goes, not so fast, sit back down. Because, they keep sending us all these same HR people that know only HR stuff. And we look at your records and you're fully qualified in HR, which I was. But you've been out in the field and you've done joint operations, you've done black ops, you've done this, you've done that. You're a field person and an HR person. And you know joint, which is all the different services. We want you to take care of HR. I said, sir, I don't want that job. Thank you very much. So after a couple back and forths, the general officer that was running this board, he reaches over the table and looks at me and he goes, Colonel, you're going to take this HR job, aren't you? Sir, yes, sir. I said, I'll take the job, but I need 6 months before I can report because I'm doing a black ops mission right now. They can't replace me. I can't tell you what the mission is. You're not cleared for it. What? I go, I'll run the HR department. I'll do it in the morning and the evening after I'm doing my normal stuff. I'm overseas, so the times will work. And I'll run the HR department from overseas. So, and they finally agreed to that because they really wanted me there to be the HR person. Well, 6 months later, I report to the White House. I'm ready to go. I said, I'm here to be in charge of HR. And he goes, well, you kind of fixed everything in HR already. You hired the right people. You fired the right people. It's running perfect. That warrant officer, which was the guy that called me, said, can run everything. He's got it down. I said, well, okay, I guess I'll retire. Because I had an alternate plan. You got to have a primary plan and an alternate plan. Good retire. He goes, can you do the same thing with the IT department that you did with the HR department? I go, well, that's the job I wanted all along. And that's how I became the CIO at the White House. Never say no. Execute on what you have. And then reevaluate. Reevaluate your life. Reevaluate your job. Do not stay stagnant. I change jobs every 2 to 3 years because I like new challenges. You need to reevaluate your destiny, your life, your career Maybe every day, when's the last time you updated your resume? If you didn't say 6 months or less, you're wrong. You should have an updated resume, because you never know who you're going to meet in the hallway of a conference. Do you have a card in your pocket that's a personal card versus a business card? You should. You should be ready for the next step and always evaluate where you are, where you want to go, and how to have a plan to get there. So these are the steps we talked about. There's me getting off of Air Force One and shaking hands with the president. If you look at that picture real close, you'll notice I have something in my ear and some stuff hanging out of my jacket, arm of my jacket, which is the microphone and the radio equipment to keep track of where the president is. So these are the plan. These are the 10 steps. You can do anything if you want to. It's up to you to use these 10 steps and get to where you want to go. I did it. I got to the President of the United States, standing next to him every day for almost 5 years. And if I can do that, not a half percenter, but just a 5%er, if I can do that, you can do anything you set your mind to. When you network, have a little luck, have a plan, and then execute. A lot of this and more are in my book, which I have for sale if anybody wants one. I talk about non-political, non-partisan time at the White House. Chapter 1 talks about what I've talked a little about here, how I got there. And a lot of fun stories of the time that I met the president for the very first time. I happened to be in a big rush and I knocked him down on his ass. First time I met the president. The first time I met Chelsea, she was tailgating me into a secure area. Hadn't swiped her badge, so I shut the door real quick behind me so no one could tailgate me. Shut the door so fast that I broke Chelsea's nose. The time I almost ran over Hillary with my car. And many more fun stories about military support to the White House and what to do when you do get your dream job. So thank you very much for listening to me. I'll be up here and you can come ask me any questions. We've kind of run out of time. I just appreciate everybody being here, listening. Thank you very much.